Hi, Dr. Crosby. This is Miranda Colley. I am doing my personal reflection on my PBDA, and I'm going to start with Standard 1, which is professional learning and teacher learning. Um, I came to say that from my personal reflection of myself, 1, 2, and 4, and I think 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 13 and 14 were in relation. Um, the following rubric elements for the PBDA: teacher leadership, self-reflection, apply. So in those, I was in developing and not meeting all criteria. According to Knowles, the need to know, the self concept, and the readiness to learn is within that. Okay, and standard two. Standard two to me, and standard two and standard seven work with stakeholders. That would be 1, 4, and collaborates. Communication teaches teachers and just teaches candidates, communities developing, a continuous input and communication. So as far as the PBDA, I rated myself as my scores 3, 4, 5, and 6. Individual interest, developing, apply what can be applied, um, and orientation to learn and motivation to learn. And I'm sorry, those are 4 of Knowles that correlated to me with this particular standard. Um, I was developing in 2, and I met in 2. Um, I'm going to go ahead and go to standard 3. Within standard 3 is the understanding curriculum that applies to knowledge to alignment of curriculum instruction and learning of the colleagues and the students. So 7 and 10 on the self-reflection, collaboration with stakeholders and improve students' learning and build positive change. 10, differences of a wide variety of individual learners. Um, as far as I met on both of those, and Knowles 4, 5, and 6, I say apply what can be applied. Task to learn, valid skills development to learn. So we're going to go to standard 4. And in standard 4, model best practices in pedagogy and service, and coach for coach for educators, as in the PDPA 6, 11, and 12. Relationships to interact positively and appropriately. Positive, low risk learning environment. 12, time management effectively. 6, 11, and 12, I met in all 3, and I rated myself as meeting in all 3 of these. Um, this is in Knowles. I said need to know, self concept for that standard, and those questions on the PDPA as I rated myself. The standard 5, design and implement assessment practices and analyze data. 7 and 13, initiate the learner or teacher candidate states evidence. 13, commitment and student learning. The teacher or teacher candidate demonstrates has to demonstrate. I on these 2, one I met, the other one I was in developing. Knowles, draw from interest developing. You have tasks to complete and skills for developing learners. For standard 6, access and conduct research and apply research to improve teaching and learning. 11 and 13 on the PDA, create positive low-risk learning. 12, a commitment to student-teacher candidates, commitment to learning, to teacher learning. So I met on these two. That's what I rated myself as meeting. And knows, why should we learn? Why should we learn? What should you learn? Self-concept and as an adult learner. Why and what should I learn? 7 is to collaborate with stakeholders to improve student learners and positive change. So on the PDPA, I rated myself as meeting in these two, positive attitude, and 6, appropriate and positive interaction with others. So no's for apply what you can apply to task at hand, internal and valid reasoning. So in the PDPA, I noticed that there were 5, 8, and 9, which was attendance, appearance, legal, and ethical conduct. For those 3 that I rated myself is meeting. Compared to the others, I just think that meets within all of the 7 standards. Attendance is needed in order for us to collaborate. Attendance is needed for us to get our points across. Appearance. It's not professional at all to come not in a professional attire. For one wants to be taken seriously, not mocked, laughed at, or wonder why people aren't doing what I say. If you want to be taken seriously, you should at least dress the part to be taken seriously. Legal and ethical conduct. We want to be within the law. We don't want to be outside of the law. Within legal rights of what we're doing as teachers. And ethical. I feel that we want to be treated. We would want our kids to be treated in a way and be within ethics and within the law. We don't want to go outside of the law or missing any marks that are necessary in order for us to be able to do what we do as educators in our teacher setting, as the teacher leader, or as just teachers working cooperatively with other teachers. It's so 5, 8, and 9 that were on that personal rating. Of course, I rated myself as meets. I do my best to, within my professional ability, to dress appropriately. I do my best without any apprehension of being in attendance unless there is something severely wrong with me or family to where I have to take off. So as legal and ethical, that's just your actual, that's how you rate yourself as being in line with the law. You're going to follow the rules. You're going to do what's best. That's just doing best practices and being honest. That's a part of your character. So that should be followed. So as far as the article I chose was Coaching to Improve Teacher Instruction and Behavior Management in High Poverty Schools, a case study. As I thought about it, as I read this article, and as I reflected on this article, as a teacher leader and as a coach, however, I am not a coach. I am a special education teacher. I'm a special education teacher of 13 years. I do work closely with my colleagues. I am an LEA, so I do actually go through IEPs, rate their IEPs, and things of that nature. I have served as the department chair, so I do understand where those ideas of teaching an adult learner come from. Within that, when you do correct a teacher, they do want to know why Why do I have to know this? Why couldn't it have been my way? Why couldn't it have stayed the way it was? They also they want to know, what was the problem? Why should I do it the way that you want me to do it? As well, they have to understand that self-concept. They have to realize that it's self-guidance. You're guiding them. You're guiding them in the way that it should be. Not the way that they want it to be, but the way it should be to meet the criteria so that we can stay into legal and ethical way of doing the IEP, because the IEP is a legal document. Um, as I know, we draw from our personal interests. Um, I think that we are educators, and as a special education teacher, I feel that we are educators of these student with disabilities because that's something that we want to do. And if that's something we want to do, we want to treat them the way they need to be treated and do the things that they need to succeed. So we're going above and beyond to do what we need to do so they can access the curriculum and increase their scores. So that is our individual or our interest in helping, because we are lovers of children, or we like working with children. So the orientation to learning, we have to make it, we have to orient ourselves at a task to want to learn. As an educator, sometimes it's not necessarily easy for us to want to learn. I noticed that as I've gotten older, I do have to orient myself to sit down, to have all of my vices that I need to stay on task, to get that across to me, and to study what I need to study. And in that, I do have to motivate myself to learn. I have to develop those internal valid reasons and those skills to develop for learning and to actually access that learning. And as it relate back to the article is a perfect example of what I've experienced within my school setting. I find that coaches put in things that they want us to learn, but we do have that pushback by certain teachers who, again, it reflects back to Knowles. And why do I have to learn this? What is the purpose of me learning this? Why can't I do it my way? You have to build that relationship and not have who you're trying to teach to learn as an adult to think that you're no more competent than they are. So that relationship, that you know your knowledge, has to be set in play, as well as you have to draw from what they're interested in, what they like. I find that there are teachers who come from every walk of life. So they like different things. So in your presentation to them, everything needs to be addressed, or try to address and meet the needs of the crowd. Meet the need of your audience, whether it's 6th, 7th, or 8th, or if it's for the whole of the group. So I think this article was very insightful on giving us strategies, ways to assist, and the poverty aspect of the article is right on target with my school, being that my school is a low economically challenged area, suburban area, trying to get the community to buy in, as well as our teachers and our stakeholders to buy in. So it's very important. And as far as the overall PDPA, I rated myself around like 24, or around 20 something out of, I think, the whole 40 something. So I was either developing or I was meeting. There are a lot of things that I feel, being that I'm not in a coaching type position or a position of what I think is leadership. However, I do work with people, and I have been a mentor. So I do validate myself as a mentor, but there are things I can work on. I know that I can work on to be more successful in being what I'm in the program to be, a teacher leader. Communicating is one. I feel that I communicate pretty well. However, sometimes the communication that I think that they should understand, they don't. So I find that I have to repeat myself. But to me, it's easier for me to speak to my students easier than it is to speak to my colleagues. I've always felt that way because we as adults can be critical and judgmental of our peers. So as I continue in this program, I'm pretty sure I will learn and I will increase what my score was to where I am more meeting than developing. So I can say there was nothing that I wasn't in developing for. So that's a plus. So that is my personal reflection. So there's always room to improve. And I'm looking forward to improve and to grow and willing to grow. So thank you. And again, I'm so sorry. As we know, life happens. This wasn't intentional, but I know that I have to get this assignment in. So I do apologize for my look and where I am. So thank you so much, Dr. Crosby.